Hi, everybody. I'm Crystal Haynes. Tonight on Greater Boston, as violence escalates in Israel and Palestine, we take a look at some of the history behind the conflict and what you need to know to understand what's happening in Gaza. A former UN advisor and lecturer of Middle East politics at Dartmouth College will help us break it all down. Then, this state is almost out of shelter for migrants coming to Massachusetts, and Governor Maura Healey says that soon we will not be able to guarantee emergency housing. And finally, we look at Boston's Caribbean Fashion Week ahead of its 10th anniversary. There is certainly a lot to keep track of as fighting escalates in Israel and Palestine. The Gaza Strip is now under siege as Israel drops bombs in retaliation for Hamas's brutal attacks, which killed 1,400 people earlier this month, most of them civilians. Since then, Israeli officials say that their counterattacks have killed several top Hamas leaders, but Palestinian civilians have been caught in the crossfire as well. The Palestinian Ministry of Health says that more than 2,800 Palestinians have been killed, also mostly civilians. Plus, more than 10,000 have been hurt, and the Israeli government has cut off access to food, water, and energy for everyone else in Gaza. And of course, all of this is informed by many decades of war and tension that led up to all of this. And understandably, many people in the U.S. are struggling to understand the context behind this conflict. Well, joining me now to help break it all down as best he can is Ezzedine Fishere, a senior lecturer at Dartmouth College who worked as a political advisor to the UN Special Envoy to the Middle East during the early 2000s. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So certainly this is an enormous topic to tackle in the limited time that we have here. But I would like to ask, what do you see in your educated opinion and also in the work that you've done has led up the precipitating moments to this particular brutal attack and then, of course, the subsequent actions?
Obviously, this is, as you said, it's a long and old conflict. It's been going on for more than a century. And the number of victims, the incidents of brutal kind of attacks are so many in this conflict. So, of course, it is very important that we understand the context and we understand where this violence is coming from in order also to be able to understand where this could lead to. But having said this, and before we go into the context, I just want to make sure so that no viewer is confused. Explaining the context has nothing to do with justifying brutality.
That's right.
Those are completely different things. And we can do both. We can be indignant by the brutality and certainly condemn it. But also, if we want to step back and try to understand where this is going, we need to understand where this is coming from. And I hope this is what we're doing here.
Absolutely, for sure, because our hearts go out to anyone who has lost anyone in the Gaza Strip tonight as we learn more about this conflict, as we sit here in the U.S. Watching these images, perhaps touched by family members or people we know in our communities.
So if you want to put it in a kind of a very rather simplistic but also kind of succinct way, what you have in Israel-Palestine, what we had over the last century, is a conflict over a land between two peoples. Each of them has a historic claim to that land. One side lived there for centuries and see it as its homeland, and the other side sees it as its historical and ancestors' homeland and want to come back to it. So you have this clash between Palestinian nationalism on one hand and Zionism on the other hand. It's as I said, it's a protracted conflict. It took many shapes, many rounds of violence, but ultimately what settled down in the international community is that both sides need to share the land. Regardless of the validity of the claims, regardless of whether you can prove in a court of law that you have a deed to this land, whether through the Bible or through other means, ultimately, we have two peoples today who live in this land and who need to share it. However, the attempts to get the two people to share the land so far have failed. We have, Madrid Conference, 91. We have Oslo, 93. We have Camp David, 2000, and so on and so forth. There are numerous attempts to bring and maps drawn and so on. None of it so far had managed to get enough agreement on both sides, enough majorities on the Palestinian and Israeli side so that we can go to a peaceful resolution. So what has been happening over the last 10 years is that the conflict is a bit frozen. As Secretary Blinken said in his congressional hearing upon his nomination, is that there is no hope in the foreseeable future to reach a peaceful settlement. So the United States have been trying to just keep things as they are and prevent further deterioration. Unfortunately, one of the characteristics of this conflict is that it is unstable. You can't keep the status quo for a long time, because on both sides, you have parties who are keen on changing the status quo and push it to further advance their claims. And what we've seen in Gaza, the attacks from Hamas, those brutal attacks, are their way to advance their claims to all of Palestine.
What ends up being the larger global concern as well, as we see other countries outside of Gaza sort of drawing allegiances to both sides?
Well, if you take a step back and think about this conflict, about this attack, about the Hamas attack, the scale of the attack, the particular shocking brutality of the attack, the nature of the targets, the fact that most of the victims are civilians, people in their homes and so on. This attack is almost, unless it's a completely rogue operation, which is practically impossible, it's a deliberate attempt. It's almost designed to produce an effect. And the effect is what you're seeing today in Gaza, is that Israel reprised it. Israel had a doctrine since its establishment not to let any attack on its territory or citizens go unpunished, quote unquote. And that means not just retaliate proportionately, but even, adopt a harsher response so that you deter further attacks. The tragedy of this doctrine is that the other side is not deterred, as you can see. So it seems as if Hamas has produced this attack in order to elicit Israel's response, which in turn, as you can see, and around the region, is mobilizing Arabs and Muslims worldwide, including in the United States, around the Palestinian cause to defend the Palestinian people and the victims that are falling in Gaza, and so on and so forth. So instead of this being a Hamas government of Israel, Netanyahu coalition kind of conflict, it becomes Israelis and even Jews on one side, and Palestinians and even Arabs and Muslims on the other side. It's this hardening of identities that this attack is designed to produce. And sadly, this is exactly the impact that is happening right now.
What's the danger in other countries now coming into this conflict? As we've seen, and we've talked about, this tension has existed for decades, right? But now it seems like there is, I guess, for lack of a better term, a larger possibility that other nations are going to be more drawn to be more active in this conflict.
Yes. First of all, we have to remember that Hamas is part of a broader Iranian coalition in the region that includes Hamas in the Palestinian territories, Hezbollah in Lebanon, and others elsewhere, but mainly Iran, Hezbollah, and Hamas. And what we're seeing today is that Hamas is obviously the main party, but Hezbollah is also exchanging fire with Israel on the northern border, and Iran is producing noises about possible intervention if things get out of control, and so on and so forth. So there is definitely a risk of a broader regional confrontation. And even if we don't hopefully we don't get into an active conflict that involves all those together, because that would be more catastrophic. But even we don't get there, you already raise the temperature in the region, make it harder for countries like Egypt, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, who are trying to find some peaceful kind of modus vivendi with Israel, or peace agreements or something in that direction, kind of reduce their ability to do this and mobilize the populations, including their own populations, behind the call for steadfastness, and war, and so on.
As we look at these images, I mean, it's hard not to understand that civilians are the ones that are quite literally being caught in the crossfire. They are at the center of these two clashes. And I think it's important to always remember that. It's innocent folks who are trying to live their lives that end up in the middle of this.
It has been the case all the time. If you look at the conflict, you look at the victims, the great majority of the victims of this conflict historically have been civilians, women and children amongst them, most of all. And in a way, civilians, unfortunately and tragically, are the one constituency that the warring parties are less interested in. Hamas deliberately hides among civilians because this is what terrorist organizations, this is what guerrilla and militia do. And they elicit that response. They know that response is going to hit civilians more. And in a way, it serves their purpose. Israel also, while it says that the army says that its rules of engagement respect civilian life and try to avoid it, but you cannot bomb an area that is 142 square miles that has 2 million people. You can't bomb it or send your army in without a huge number of your victims being civilians. And again, sadly, the civilians, also on the Israeli side, are the ones paying the price for this.
Yeah, in a couple of minutes, I wonder if you could just sort of tell us, given your experience and your education about this region, what's the best possible outcome here?
Well, the best possible outcome is actually not going to come from the region. You can read in, today's newspapers calls on Israel to, to hold the attack or at least reconsider, because the idea of an all-out attack once for all, as Tom Friedman said in the New York Times today, is wrong for Israel and its security. We have seen this happening before, and that never actually produced the expected effect. But the region, it's very hard to see that a positive response is going to come from the region. And I think, based on my experience and based on history, our best hope lies in, tragically enough, lies in Washington. It's the United States that can actually play the most constructive role here. Israel cannot pull this off on its own. It needs help from not only the US, but it needs help from the neighbors, from the regional countries. But the neighbors and Israel cannot alone find a way to put all those new moving pieces together. Only the US can do that. Historically, that has been what American leadership was about. And fortunately, not only this administration, but previous administrations have been led by this delusion that you can disengage from the Middle East, that you can put the Middle East on a back burner because you're busy with China. And when we do this, the only result is you caught unprepared, because again, the Middle East is unstable, status quo is unstable. So you can't put it on a back burner and expect it to stay there. It's going to collapse, and then you have to leave everything that's in your hand and go and tend to it. Think, where is President Biden going this week?
Right.
We don't have a speaker in Congress. Where is the president going? Not to the Congress. He's going to Israel.
Right.
Why? Because you can't afford to leave it. So the lesson is, I think the best outcome is for the U.S. to understand that it has to lead change in the Middle East if it wants to protect its interest, if it wants to protect its global leadership role. It cannot dissociate itself from the Middle East, and it cannot satisfy with just keeping the status quo. Yeah. It's untenable.
All right. Professor, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Now, Massachusetts will no longer guarantee shelter for migrant families who come into the state. That's according to Governor Maura Healey, who's announced the state is nearing maximum capacity in its shelter system and will not be able to expand any more than it already has.
Our shelter system cannot expand indefinitely. This level of demand is not sustainable. We can only go it alone for so long.
Healey renewed calls for more help from the federal government, which she says have gone unmet since she first declared a state of emergency over shelter capacity for migrants 2 months back. GBH News State House reporter Katie Lannan was at that press conference today, and she joins me now with more. Hi, Katie.
Hey there, good to be with you.
So as we talk about this capacity that the state has had, the state has been housing migrants for some time, and we're talking about some 7,000 families.
That's right. And Governor Healey says that when the state hits 7,500 families, there won't be enough space, money, or service providers to provide shelter for any more. So at that point, they're going to have to kind of implement a triage system, prioritizing families with health risks or other pressing needs and instituting a wait list for people beyond that capacity limit.
And the Healey administration also announced a new position to sort of manage all of this, the emergency assistance director. Talk to me about that person and their role.
That's right. This is Lieutenant General Scott Rice. He's held leadership positions at both the Air National Guard and the Massachusetts National Guard. And here in Massachusetts, he's been involved in response efforts to hurricanes, ice storms, the Boston Marathon bombing. He's a Southampton resident, and he'll be stepping in to lead coordination between federal, state, and local officials, as well as providing daily updates to Governor Healey on the situation on the ground.
This situation with the migrants and the assistance that the Healey administration has provided them, and of course the output of money and resources, has been one that a lot of folks have talked about at the State House and, you know, probably in everyone else's living room who's watching. Did you think that the Healey administration had a pressure put on it to take action here?
I mean, I think she's been calling for action for a long time, but we've been hearing from cities and towns, from local officials who say their schools, their hotels are not able to keep hosting more and more new people. Of course, the housing crisis is contributing here too, because families can't move out of shelter. The governor said some families have been in shelter for more than a year. It's both longtime mass residents and new immigrants who are in emergency shelter. So it does seem like we're reaching a boiling point here.
Did the governor mention that if we do hit that capacity number, what happens then? What activates? Do people get turned away?
It's not clear how that's really going to work. She said there'll be some sort of wait list. People will be prioritized based on their needs. But right now, she said they want to put the message out that they won't be able to continue doing what has been going on so far. But we don't really know what the next steps are going to look like in just a couple weeks. November 1st is right around the corner, and that's when they expect the capacity limit to be hit.
You know, we've been talking about the housing crisis, and there are presumably folks that need that space that migrant families are filling. But where do the migrant families go once they've gotten here and gotten the resources? And what is Governor Healey going to do if they continue to need those resources?
Yeah, I think that's one of the issues the governor is trying to unwind here. One of the things she's been really pressing on the federal government for is to speed up the work authorization so that people coming here from other countries can get jobs, can earn money to help support their family. And they're launching some new job training programs to make sure people get skills while they're waiting for that work authorization, and to help people get placed in jobs if they are legally able to work. The state is also looking to step up its efforts to help people find and afford stable housing from shelter. So it'll be interesting to see how and at what scale that all plays out, because we're talking around some 23,000 people in the shelter system right now.
In the last 30 seconds that we have, I mean, how much money has the state spent in housing these folks and could continue to shell out to support them?
Yeah, we're absolutely talking millions of dollars. Governor Healey requested $250 million in funding. State lawmakers haven't acted on that additional funding request, but the House Speaker says he's not sure that would even get us through the end of the month.
Well, certainly something we'll be watching. Katie Lannan, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
All right, well, next up, Boston is about to get a whole lot brighter. In just a couple of days, Boston Caribbean Fashion Week will celebrate its 10th anniversary, cementing it as one of the city's longest-running Fashion Week events. The 4-day festival of fashion and beauty kicks off on Wednesday night and will highlight designers and artists from across New England. Now, for more on what's coming up is the founder and executive producer of the Fashion Week, Althea Blackford, joining me now, and Boston-based makeup artist Alexia J., who's being honored at this year's event. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Well, Althea, let's talk about this event for folks who may not know, but, you know, I'm sure, as we just seen from the photos, it's going to be amazing.
Yes, it's 10 years in the works and 10 years in the making. And yeah, we're all about, for Boston Caribbean Fashion Week, beauty, culture, fashion, and style. That is our 4 pillars. So it's all about showcasing those pillars in one way or another through our events. And when folks do come to our events, they have a great time. They're like, oh my gosh, I didn't know about this. We want more. I'm just like, thanks, tell more and bring 5 more people. Come on through. It's a good time. It's all about that good vibes. We're bringing that whole Caribbean culture that when you go to a Caribbean destination, you're like, I love it here. We're bringing that to Boston through Fashion Week.
And this year's theme is celebrating, you know, this work, this labor of love that's lasted for a decade in the city.
Yes, it's been a labor of love. It's a short way of saying it, but yes, I've been pouring through all these years, and it just started literally with just an idea. And it was just like, one of those what if, and it was on the level of, well, I can do it and I can check it off, and if it doesn't work, well, I can say at least I attempted to make a fashion week and go from there. But for all the years, I was always behind the scenes and producing other folks' fashion shows, and folks were like, you're good, you should do something on your own. And I was saying not before the time, and was doing other things along the way, and then had my little thought moment of like, hey, you know, what if I do a fashion show? But I had all these different elements, and then I was like, well, that doesn't sound like a fashion show. That sounds like a full fashion week. And the journey started from there. And I'm like, at the same time too, I wanted to embrace and highlight my Caribbean heritage as well too. So what better way to do that? Because you don't find that so much here in the Boston area. So it's just a wonderful way of just like celebrating kind of what we do have a Caribbean community here in Boston. So I wanted to bring something different and special, and what better way to do that through fashion.
And Alexia, I mean, you were receiving an award at this event,
Yes.
which, you know, you said you were a little nervous. You like to be behind the scenes. But I'm sure you've worked other fashion shows,
Yes.
fashion weeks. What
Yes.
makes this one different than, say, something else you may have done or been a part of?
I mean, you know how it is in New York Fashion Week or LA Fashion Week. It's a little bit more pretentious, where I feel like Althea brings more of like a community-based feel to it. So that's one thing I enjoy about it. And obviously at the ICA, it's always a good time no matter what. It just, I think the energy in the room's always just amazing. So honestly, that's the difference for me.
Yeah, and talk to me about your journey as a makeup artist and then doing, you know, these fashion shows, because it's probably different than, you know, when my feeble attempts at, you know, being presented for the camera.
Well, I've been doing makeup for about 10 years now, so it's been a while. I'm Boston-based, and I work out of a spa now. I have a space in a spa where we do all skincare and anything to do with skin, so makeup was fitting to be there. But over the years, I've done fashion, like I've done editorial. I still do editorial work, and it's enjoyable. I think it's evolved. The fashion industry has evolved so much that now it's a little bit more comfortable, especially for women of color in this industry. And I've seen that from just being in the industry for over 10 years, because I was in fashion before. But doing makeup specifically, it's just different now, and I really enjoy it.
Yeah, well, Althea, talk to me about the inclusivity piece, because a lot of times these Caribbean designers don't always get the platform and the space that they do during the Caribbean Fashion Week here in the city.
Yes, that was one of the things, and take it back even further. There's a lot of designers that are here in the U.S. And they may have like Caribbean ties, or they are West Indian in some form or another, but they don't brand themselves as that, because that's very like locking you in a niche, and you won't get anywhere from there, because from an American point of view, if you say you're Caribbean, well, that means resort wear, and there's that, and it's like, but there's more to that one person, and they have their own point of view, and we want to celebrate that. So therefore, yes, you may be from the Caribbean, but we want to see like your minimalistic style. We want to see the colors. We want to see the whole range that you actually provide, and that is a great platform that we provide. And it's amazing how Caribbean designers are like, I feel like I get to celebrate me while I get to showcase what I can do, because I know that I'm not just one thing. I'm more than one thing, but at least with this platform, I can do it all.
How has the show evolved over the last decade?
Well, it started off simple and learning along the way, because it was, there's no real handbook of like how to do a fashion week.
Right.
So you learn along the way of the bumps and bruises of like what not to do and what to do along the way. And the production value has gotten tighter over the years. I have an amazing team that like we get it done. We have our constant morning group chat texts and everything. So we're like, how are we doing? What's going on? What we need to take care of, and especially as we get closer to the days of just like making sure like we're on point. What's happening? Is everybody comfortable with what they need to do? Does everybody need to know what they need to do and be on it? So our production value has really strengthened over the years, and we're all about producing a solid product.
Alexia, what's your favorite part about being a part of this show?
Oh man,
Or week, I guess. Week of events,
the week,
right? Not just show, week of events.
In the past, I've created clothing out of hair. We've done makeup. We've done the virtual where we did makeup in a Caribbean fashion, so everybody kind of had their own inspiration, but I did a Caribbean theme. So I think the creativity part of it is really great, but also the creative freedom that Althea gives me when I am a part of the shows. So that's one of the things I really enjoy, is just having the creative freedom. Most of the times when you're on a set or an editorial shoot, they're telling you specifically what you need to do. Like, it's very specific, whereas when I work with Althea, it's just like, make the girls look good.
Just make them look good. That's all you need, right?
That's what you do. I see the craft that you can do. Have fun.
Yes.
I will give you some guidance of like what I'm trying to go for.
Yeah.
But from there, it's just do you. Have fun. I know it will be great. I know it will be amazing. Let's have some fun.
Right.
And that's what everyone should do when they come on out to the Fashion Week, right?
Exactly. This is all about, if you have that outfit that you're like, I don't know where to wear it, it's this week. That's this week. That dress that you're like, where can I wear this? It's this week.
Yeah.
It's all these events. For our opening night, we have Tropical Chic is the theme, and that's our avant-garde design challenge, which the designers are creating looks that are tropical chic is the theme for them.
Yeah.
So we're asking all our attendees as well too to also wear your tropical chic. What does that mean? Define it for us. There's no wrong answer basically. So let's just have fun with it. But we're all about some good cocktail attire, and your fun festive outfits. Come with it. Bring it. We like to get dressed as a Caribbean culture and community and diaspora. We're all about the color. Why not celebrate it? Why not do it? So that dress that you're like, I don't know. Yes, bring it. Come on with it. Yeah, that thing you were looking at, put it on. Come on.
All right, don't threaten me with a good time. All right, ladies. Well, Althea Blackford and Alexia J, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, everybody. Well, that's it for tonight. But we, of course, will be back tomorrow. I'm Crystal Haynes. Thank you so much for watching. Good night.
Show me your hands.